Hi everyone, welcome to Single Value. So today we're going to talk about Velodyne Lidar, and this is a company that's trading at $18.81 and it's got a market value of $3.17 billion. And this is a company I reckon that is very undervalued, especially when we consider how much Luminar Technologies is trading at. So the share price doesn't show right now because it was a reverse merger. So Yahoo generally takes a little bit of time to catch up, but the merger value was about $3.4 billion, and based on the $40 price tag, it's 4 times that, which gives it about a $13 billion valuation. So you've got Luminar at $13 billion and you've got Velodyne at $3 billion. So we already have like this big difference in terms of valuation. I'm gonna let these guys talk about how I think about Luminar right now.
It's over 9,000! 9,000?! There's no way that could be right!
Yeah, so you kind of get the message, right? It seems pretty high in value, whereas with Velodyne, it seems so lowly valued in comparison, 13 billion with 3 billion. So I kind of see Velodyne with a lot of room to catch up, because this is a company that actually has more revenues than Luminar. Luminar, in its essence, has about $20 million in revenue. Of course, they have $1 billion on their order book, which is pretty incredible, and they're expecting 837 million in the year 2025, and then continuing to $5 billion by the year 2030. So you can kind of see like there is immense potential for this company, hence why the market is jumping on the bandwagon and really going with it. But whereas in a sense the current revenues are very tiny, and even Velodyne itself expects in about 6 years they will be roughly at about $600 million. So a little bit less than Luminar, but again, these are forward projections that are years and years ahead, so they may not be accurate. And for me, both these companies are on par at least. If not, like Velodyne, $3 billion. At least they should be worth half of Luminar, if not even more than that. So I'm thinking this is more of a value play, and it's definitely looking very interesting to me, because I'm looking at this and I'm going, there's a value disconnect, whereas with Velodyne, I don't really see what they do as any less different in a sense, because yeah, you've got this company working with Ford, Mercedes-Benz, Volvo, Baidu, Caterpillar, you know, to name some of the big companies out there that you probably recognize. And they've got many products based on different vehicle needs. So we can kind of see like different ones will do different kind of you know, distances, and they'll be better in different environments. So you can kind of get the idea. And they come at different prices. The one thing that Elon Musk has always said about LiDAR is it's doomed to fail because it's pretty expensive. Whereas not many car companies are in Tesla's advantage, where they can actually transform your normal camera that usually views images in 2D, and then they've reprogrammed it to view it in 3D, which kind of takes a lot of time, and a lot of car companies don't specialize in this. They don't really have the whole engineering team that does all these things, so hence they're actually really reliant on a company like Velodyne or Luminar. And hence why, even though Elon Musk doesn't view LiDAR as a great product, a lot of car companies will continue to use this. And yeah, I think they'll have a lot of business. Luminar will have a lot of business. But the one thing I never get is right now is, how is this company at $13 billion and how is this one at $3 billion? So there's an incredible difference. And here we have Velodyne, that they just released at the start of the year a $100 LiDAR sensor. So the pricing can actually come down by quite a lot. So at $100, it's already starting to be a bit more competitive, and who knows, in the future going ahead, things could even get even cheaper because technology improves. These companies find ways to lower costs. Of course, this is a tiny sensor, and some car companies might want larger ones, though this one apparently would do the job for a lot of mass market production cars. And as you can see, like, this is the size of a pen, that's the size of their sensor, and it's not very big, but it does the job. So for me, this company definitely ranks up as doing a very good job right now. Like, the tech is still in development stages, so we can't say exactly who's got the better tech because everyone's still developing. And until we actually have autonomous driving and these two companies proving out who is better, it still could be like one company is ahead for 1 year and then another company is ahead for the same for another year, or they kind of meet half and half as they go. And yeah, like for me, the valuation is such a big disconnect that I thought it's definitely worth doing a video on Velodyne because their share price is so like low in value. It kind of reminds me of like Tesla and Neo. Like, for a while Tesla was way ahead, and then Neo was still in its infancy and it wasn't producing as many cars, but it was kind of worth something more than at the time. And then over time, when Tesla got way overvalued, everyone kind of looked around and said, oh, where's another car company, EV car company that we can get into? And then they looked at Neo and they were like, oh, there goes one. And I'm seeing the same thing. Right now, people are going, oh, Luminar, this is a company that is, the one leading the way forward. It does have a lot of good backers. I think Peter Thiel's Founders Fund is also part of the Luminar deal as a backer. So I guess the name and everything is behind that company, whereas with Velodyne, not as much. But I don't see why that's a disadvantage for the company itself. And yeah, it's kind of one of those things. Everyone's going to go Luminar, and in the minute it's too highly valued, they're going to look for the next one, and Velodyne's going to be in their sight, and I think it's going to propel this company on a much higher valuation. Either Luminar falls by a gigantic amount, or Velodyne rises by a gigantic amount. You be the judge. Alright, so we're going to look at our Velodyne revenues. So revenues for 2020 for the 3 months was 32 million, and that's up from 13 million a year ago. So you can already see the revenues are starting to grow really well. Of course, the 9 months revenue for 2020 was actually lower than the past year at 77 million compared to 82 million. But that's kind of normal. Like, these companies, they do deals where they kind of sign up big companies and they supply a lot of units, and then hence their revenue is very, very lumpy in a sense. So they could be transitioning with the technology at that same time. I wouldn't be too weirded out to be saying, oh, 2019 revenue was actually higher in the 9 months than the 2020 revenue. At this stage, it really doesn't matter because it's all development tech. It's as much as it's revenue, it's still in it's still progressing, and it's still releasing new units. Different car basically different car companies are kind of testing different LiDAR sensors, different companies, and they'll come and go, and then they'll be setting their sights on a certain company, and then they'll be the main supplier. But the 3 months revenue is showing some very, very encouraging signs. For 3 months, they're already at 32 million compared to their 9 months, which was 77. So that's already half the, close to half the revenue. Of course, 2020 might have been heavily affected for reasons we already know. So again, I wouldn't judge the 9 month too harshly. I think there's many reasons behind why it's not ahead, but I think next year it's going to be way, way ahead, because as momentum builds for autonomous driving, LiDAR gets very popular because no one else is able to do what Tesla does, unless the Tesla just goes, hey, have our tech, make it open source. Then potentially it's a risk for these companies. But I think these companies themselves do have some decent tech. I wouldn't call LiDAR to be doomed, though I would say any company that can use just normal cameras to do autonomous driving is going to have a pretty decent margin advantage. So hence why I see Tesla always having a margin advantage ahead of other manufacturers, especially when it comes to autonomous driving. But again, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of like saying, like, Apple right now in the smartphone industry has immense margins when we compare to like other smartphone manufacturers. But that's, you know, that's also how things are, you know. Apple's just figured out ways to get better pricing, better margins, and it doesn't mean the other ones don't succeed. Every other company still can succeed, even if one company has a better advantage in one thing. There's different consumers, and there's different companies buying different LiDAR sensors, figuring out which technology is better, and that will go on for probably the next 5 years. It will go on for a very long time because tech is constantly evolving. So hence why I'm saying Velodyne has every chance of being a better company. Of course, currently the Luminar does have the better name and probably potentially the better tech as well. But I wouldn't say Velodyne is that much behind. So I think both companies in their own right should have similar valuations. If not, Velodyne should be worth a bit more, at least double their current share price. If Luminar can be worth 13 billion, this one can be worth 6 at least. So let me know if you've got any questions or comments. Always happy to listen to those. Until then, wish you well if you're investing, and good luck with your